Hello everybody, it is Thursday and we're going to do a Cavalier guide video. We've got lots of options for your paths and we've got a few options when it comes to the bosses. What am I talking about? It's Thursday and I can't speak properly. Let's begin with 1.1. 1.1 is all about martial discipline, fighting fit, accidental prone and heal block passive. Now, completely up to you how you choose to rotate around this. For me, I'm all about the debuff shruggers as opposed to the critters, and there are quite a few critters, so it could be a case that you go down the route of Black Widow Deadly Origin, which is one of my personal favourites, Stealth Suit Spider-Man for crits, Shang-Chi for crits, Else Bloodstone, Aegon, or you could go down the Immunity Shrug-Off route, which is my personal favourite with Crossbones, Nick Fury to a degree, but yeah, I mean Mole Man, yeah, there's a few kind of like ones that are quite good, but yeah, Black Widow Deadly Origin is my MVP. And for the boss, you may want to do Incinerate Immunity. It just depends on certain factors, like if you haven't put like an attack on the champion within a certain amount of seconds, you will get Incinerate debuff. So it's up to you whether you want to do Incinerate Immunity. To be honest, any champion really works for this. Maybe more so when it comes to Incinerate Immunity, but it's not a huge amount of kind of like ticking Incinerate damage. You may even want to shrug it off and debuff shruggers at the end of it, so it's down to personal preference. Also, I must stress this isn't a really difficult month. It's actually really standard, but you know, I'm still doing this in any case, so I do this every month. But in any case, the 1.2 difficulty is Occult Equilibrium. God, those words. Siphoning Strength, Power Overwhelming. Basically, and in a nutshell, regen champions, power control champions. Those are your two options. And there's a ton of champions kind of like options for this. Whether or not you want to go down the route, like I like using Scarlet Witch OG, but Doctor Doom for power control, Magic for power control. Recently, Purgatory, Wong. You know, any champion that's recently kind of come in that regens could be relatively good. Mephisto, Sorcerer Supreme. You know, there's tons. There's tons. Even Dormammu could be quite good in here, which I am interested in kind of testing out. But that's another story for another video. Your boss for this one is going to be Strife. Now, with Strife, it's all about champions that counter miss. Human Torch, Professor X, Hercules, SP1 rotation, Magneto because it's hashtag metal and just shuts down everything is an option. Red Goblin. Do bear in mind there is a tab that I have put in the sheet, which is link is in the description, and has a little breakdown of miss evade counters and auto block counters. So if one of the ones I mentioned is not there, go and check it out. 2.1 is your tech, and this is Engineered Fracture, Infectious Wrath, Nanite Healing, and Indomitable, which I was about to say is indubitably old chum. So if you've got champions that deal heal block, it's able to suppress healing on the enemy, and there's going to be some good champions to kind of like using as counters. So you can go down the route of several, but for me, some of these are the best. Warlock, Star-Lord. Well, Star-Lord's an iffy kind of like SP2 luck one, but Hulkbuster's really good. That's one I use quite a bit. Then you got Sentinel, Doc Ock, Civil Warrior. Civil Warrior is great. Mysterio is great as well. I'm Patriot with Red Goblin. It's up to you if you want to do that. I'm an Infinity War. And any champion that just like heal blocks. It doesn't have to be a tech, but you know, it plays into the node of getting Fury passive. From a boss counter perspective, it's up to you how you feel like you want to take this on. It's got Persistent Pressure, which is the champion will get an Unstoppable buff. So Unstoppable is annoying. So how do you deal with that? You either go Stagger, Slow debuff, or you play into the node. Playing into the node is basically have a load of prowess buffs. So there's a lot of champions out there that have prowess buffs. You either go down the route of Kitty Pryde, Bishop, Professor X, Apocalypse, or Magneto. Now I think Magneto might work because I believe that that particular Hulk, Gladiator Hulk, is hashtag metal. I think that's the champion I used against this in the end. I think it was a bit of a rocky fight, but it kind of like still did the business. Unstoppable counters, slow debuff champions, She-Hulk, Titania if you got her early, Spider-Gwen, Silver Centurion, or just stagger champions in general. There's tons. Yes, a lot of those are mystic-based ones, but there are a few that are kind of science-based ones in order to kind of suppress any buffs. Mr. Fantastic is an example. It just kind of cropped into my head just there. So it's up to you how you want to play against this particular champion and fight. 2.2, and it's all about science champions. So science champions are the key, Academic Constitution, and Vexing Blight, and Contagion. So for this, I kind of feel like because of the chance to have the shrug off of the poison debuff, I kind of feel it's always best, it's a personal preference, I always feel it's important to have poison immunity champions to take this on. Again, it doesn't have to be the case. I personally find it more easier to do. There's lots of champions to choose on this one. You've got Quake because she doesn't touch, so no poisons. Immortal Abomination is one of the best ones. Hulk and Immortal Hulk, poison immune, again, great ones. Human Torch, again, iffy. Poison immune, Abomination with the poison immune with, and also poison damage doing with Red Guardian can be a nice kind of effect. Ant-Man recently buffed, very good option. She-Hulk, very good option. Void, you know, has debuff damage and doesn't really kind of like touch and stuff. And there's a few other like poison immune champions. You don't have to stick with science. It's just up to you whether or not you want to get Fury passives. But as I said, most of those are really good. With, you know, the Ant-Man one being a new kind of like, wow, that's kind of cool. And as well as some of the Hulks and Immortal Abomination as well at the same time. The champion fight does have like a little bit of an annoying thing in that you do get rooted. And that's probably the only thing. I did actually use a Mystic champion. So I wasn't quite sure about like who to use against this. So I was like, oh, well, I'll just use Black Widow Clairvoyant. And that worked. To be honest, having the buff immunity side of things, yes, like nullifying is a bit of an issue because whenever the defender is immune to or inflicted with a nullify, Fate Seal or Stagger, they become stun immune for 10 seconds. Gotta be honest, it made zero difference to the fight. The most important thing was watching out for root and as well, you know, the unstoppable that comes in from time to time. Close Encounters does regen you a little bit, but it's up to you whether or not you want to use champions that deal with, you know, degen immunity, but we're just going down a rabbit hole with this. In a nutshell, and the easiest thing to explain this is, watch out for root. You will be rooted in place. The champion may be doing special attacks towards you, and then you're like, oh, well, I've got to move. So just a case of like going into a block. As soon as a special attack is launched, go into a block stance, and then when he's done the head thing, the kind of the headbutt, then you swipe back whilst you're rooted. So watch out for that headbutt coming in, and then do the swipe. You will be rooted, so you can't move, but still it's good practice, especially if you've done the 6.2.6 champion fight. 3.1 that, and I had a lot of fun with this one. I'm going to be doing some content on this very soon. Hercules, now that I've got Hercules, I think this is from maybe I had it last month, but this month having like Hercules and kind of pairing up with some like synergy, some pre-fights, he's actually incredibly fun to take on this, and as well as great for an interaction with the boss. But that's something, say, for another video, because I decided to use non-Hercules based champions to take down on my first run. But as I said, video coming very soon. Celestial Vision. So each time the Cosmic attacker lands an attack, they have a 15% chance for each unique buff to gain a Vigilance buff. So multiple buffs means Vigilance buff, means dealing and suppressing miss, which means good for Fury passives for you. And we love that. We love that a lot. Now, it's not just about Hercules. There are other champions as well. Odin Corvus, Proxima Midnight. But then there's the best ones, which are Venom, Angela, King Groot, Medusa, Cosmic Ghost Rider, Captain Marvel movie, Super Skrull, Black Bolt with the Hitmonkey synergy, because why not? Tons. You could even do miscounters against this on any different type of class to kind of get it done. Again, up to you. It's a personal preference to kind of like have that. As long as you've got miscounters, this should be fine for anybody to do. From a boss perspective, this again wasn't too bad. As long as you keep to the SP1 and watch out for that beam that comes out. Like he does a first little attack at you and then there's a beam straight after. As soon as you've learnt that, then you're absolutely fine. Also, watch out for shocks and shock damage. I would say shock immune champions may be the best ones. It's hard to say. Or power control champions. That's just down to like how I saw the fight. I found that the champion was building up power quicker. So kind of like, yeah, maybe kind of power control champions. I used Magneto first off. # metal, of course. Second champion was Dr. Doom, funny enough. Used the Doom to destroy the Tech Doom. It's, yeah, absolutely fine. But again, down to personal preference. Penny Parker could be a good option, especially for power control perspectives. I think that would probably be quite good. But anything that really kind of like, interacts well with this one is normally a good counter. But also, I may be convinced in future grinds of this to use champions like King Groot and ones that have armor break, Medusa, Terrux, that are able to kind of like, just kind of like deal with this kind of like bringing down of that armor. That armor is quite important for the champions, so bringing that down may be quite good. Yes, you have but a minor setback, which is the attacker's armor break and nullify effects suffer 100% ability, actually knocking down the defender disables destruction for 15 seconds. So, you know, you can look to kind of interact with it. It's just a case of like, it gives you a short window of opportunity. So it's down to like a player perspective how you take this on. You could even go Dr. Doom, pair up with Mr. Fantastic for an armor break. Again, up to you and personal preference of how to take this on. And the final path is the one that's all about mutants. Okay, so we got Seeing Red and Biohazard. For me, when taking on this one, I just go double immunity just to be safe. Yes, it does mean that you can use any mutant on this, and that's facts on it. But for me, it's a case of like just using like champions that are like Colossus, Iceman, Mega Red, Magneto, just have that kind of like really good like centric interaction. And then we got like Apocalypse. Yeah, like Apocalypse is probably the main champion I use, especially because you're trying to empower other ones to be horsemen. Very important because like I was using Archangel for the final boss. But look, it's down to personal preference, who you got, what you want to use. And as well, do bear in mind, yes, it's a 90% reduction on the bleed debuffs, so you can be aggressive. Just watch out. A lot of the AI is very passive and very defensive, which is really annoying because you want to be able to get them to do special attacks, and this could be very important. Especially there's a Sauron fight on here where it's like, just move. Like, if you're not moving out as a champion towards me, that's a problem. And the same thing because the champion goes unblockable. Very, very annoying. Some weird like choices by Kabam on champions they've put on certain nodes, especially those that require, to not hit enemies because it will kind of like come back in your face. But in any case, I digress. And the final champion, Titania, isn't actually that bad. Now, it depends on the champions you want to choose for this. The main thing to point out is bleed vulnerability, and the champion as well will have, and I think this is probably the main thing to be concerned about, and that's that that unblockable, indestructible, and unstoppable that comes towards you. Now, you can choose to interact with this in many different ways. Whether or not you have slow debuff performing champions and start off the match with the She-Hulk and just do parry heavy, and then what you've done is you've done that unstoppable. So it means that you can still keep your intercepts as a more constant thing. Same thing with Silver Centurion because it's easy rotation. Again, up to you. That's a personal preference as to like how you see and want to deal with this fight. I'm just giving you options for it. If you're longer in the fight, then you, I don't know, want debuff struggles, but I to be honest, as I fought against it, didn't really see myself getting any debuffs on me in any kind of great way. I found like one of my best options was Archangel because of the bleed vulnerability. It meant that by just doing parry heavies, I was able to neurotoxin and knock out the champion. Again, very easy, very cheesy, and all that stuff. Now, if you want to go down the other route of choosing bleed debuff champions, your Nick Furies, your Gwenpools, your Black Panthers, it's again down to a personal preference of how you choose to take this on. But I would say this is actually a very standard type fight, nothing too weird or kind of like, freaky to kind of watch out about. But it's just a case of that indestructible, the unstoppable, and that unblockable to watch out. And you may want to, and this is my top tip, is to kind of get the champion, because the champion will do it as soon as she dashes. The kind of the trick is with this is to get the champion up against the wall, against her side, the defender's side, and then it's a case of allowing her to dash and then kind of going right to the back until the unstoppable, until the unblockable, until the indestructible all times out. And then once it goes out, then be aggressive, be really aggressive for that length of time that the champion is on cooldown. And then again, repeat the method. Then keep the enemy at the defender's wall. Then allow the ability when she dashes to come in, and obviously Dex. And then it's a case of like then back in again. But it's a pretty standard fight. Like this is a pretty standard month, so this is good for those that are interested. And there we have it. That has been the Cavalier guide for Thursday. I'm going to get on with making some other content now about this month. And yeah, thanks very much for watching. Check out some other content located on screen. I'll see you very soon. Much love. Goodbye for now.